All right, I'm on hole number 2 of the Monster Marsh tournament. I'm in Wednesday's qualifying round in the Rookie Division. And hole number 2 is hole number 7. This is the duck hole, the dreaded duck hole. So in my practice account, let's talk about ways. Low level clubs, this is a safe shot. You can do this to get up here. You can take that, you can do that. If you got really low developed clubs, the problem is if you end up in the sand out here, or you end up in the rough out here and you don't bleed off into the fairway, this will be it's not that it's an impossible shot, but it's going to be difficult with super low developed clubs. And there is a tendency in this game to go from sand to sand, or to sand, to go from rough to rough to rough to rough, and the whole goal is to, if you end up in the rough or the sand, to get back out in the fairway, because our best clubs are from the fairway. And so there is a tendency, if you've got really low developed clubs, that this may cause you a problem here. So if you wanted to play it safe, just lay it up out here and go for this shot. But you really have to know your numbers. This is either going to be a short iron or a long iron, just depending on how far you can get out in this direction. And you really need to know your numbers in order to do that. And I think the way the wind's blowing here, I think the wind is kind of blowing, I think it may be blowing in this direction. So if you lay up out here, your next shot is going to be against the pure side wind. And so this shot here is going to be diminished. So as far as like trying to get up there in one, it's not a bad play. But if you're using a 3-power ball and an extra mile, especially if it's a lower developed one, you may have a problem trying to get into the fatter part, and you're going to be hitting more into this narrow. I'm going to bring, because in my practice account I used a Titan and I was able to get on in one. But I had to do max overpower, and you've got, that's a variable. You've got to hit perfect, or you can set your shot up so you can hit one great to either to the left or to the right and perfect and make this shot, but you're not going to be able to hit them both. And if you hit a 2-ring great to either side, you're sunk. You're in the sand or in the rough. So to help myself out here so I don't have to do any or very little overpower, I'm going to bring a 5-power ball. And I don't need a ton of curl. A Titan had more than enough to get up there. So I'm not exactly sure which ball I'm going to bring here, but what do I got? That's a 4-power ball. Liberty ball, that's a 5-power ball. 2 side spin, no wind. I can use the wind here, but the deal about using the wind on a shot like this, and there's a whole bunch of holes in this tournament that you can use the wind to get you forward. And if you're using the wind to get you forward and you're hitting from here, and you're trying to get as far out here as you can, and your first bounce is here and the second bounce is out here, and then you're trying to bleed it forward, there's some safety in that, because you can allow the wind to push you, and sometimes you'll get a 2 wind, and sometimes you'll get a 3, and sometimes you'll get a 4, and it's not going to really play a big factor other than the fact that you may bleed out here if the wind's too high. But typically when you're just trying to go forward, leaving the wind in is not a bad play. But when you're trying to hit into a very specific spot, let's say in the qualifying round you had a 2 wind, and you're like, hey, I got that perfect, and the next round you have a 3 wind. Well, if you're leaving the wind in, now you're going to be out here. Now you got a 4 wind in the weekend round, now you're going to be out here. So if you can take the wind out by adjusting the wind out and then take your shot, then you're going to be more in a consistent area. So when you're doing this type of shot, on this one we are having to leave the wind in, but be very cognizant that in the weekend, in the qualifying round here, we've had 2-3 mile an hour winds, and all of a sudden in the weekend round you have a 4.5 or a 4.6 or a 5 mile an hour wind. This landing zone is going to be different, and the shot's going to be a little bit, the setup's going to be a little bit different. So anytime you can take the wind out, it's always better. Snow globe. I don't really need that side spin. That's a 4-power ball. I think I need 2 side spin, because that's kind of matching up with a Titan. Prestige ball. That's a 4. That's a 4. Origin ball, I think that's a 4. Wales, Brazilian, Turkey. So my choices are going to be pretty limited here. And I do have enough berserkers, so I'm gonna try a berserker on it. I'm just gonna want what I want to see, and that'll still leave me 5 in case it doesn't work out. And a berserker is replenishable because we can pick some up in the golden shot. The whole deal is to try and standardize the shot, because you really want to get eagles on all the par 3s, or excuse me, all the par 4s. So if we can make this shot, if we can standardize this shot, and with a 3-power ball, max overpower, I'm using about 3 topspin. So here I'm picking up some of that distance, so I'm still going to be in the 3 topspin-ish range with maximum right-hand side spin. And I was using a little bit of curl, not a lot, but a little. Alright, let's try that. Anything we can do on these shots to try and standardize them to make it to the point where we can go out there. If we don't have to use overpower, that's a huge variable. You're going to have a much better shot of hitting perfect if you're not having to use overpower. So you may hit that shot perfect 3 or 4 times in a row, but if you don't hit that perfect on the weekend round and you catch one of them 2 rings great to the left or the right and you end up in the sand, you just blew your chance. It's not that you still can't get on from the sand if you've got better clubs, but the whole goal is to try and get up there and get on and one every single time. And we have a much better shot of that if we bring out a bigger ball. So we have a 2.8 wind today, and it's going straight out the hole. So that's why if you lay up over here, you're going to be hitting against a pure side wind. So even though the safe play is to lay up over there, your second shot coming in is going to be a little bit tougher because you're dealing with pure side wind. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. They, if they wouldn't have hit that shot great, 2 rings great to the left, they probably would have had a decent shot of getting on. But we want to try and make it so that you can hit it without using a lot of overpower. So it's going to push me forward about 2 rings. So I'm going to be somewhere in this neighborhood right here. Max and about 3. So it's going to push me forward about 2 rings into this neighborhood right here. And it's going to push me to the side just a titch. So I'm going to be right in that area right there, and I'm not going to do any overpower on it. I'm just going to put a little teeny bit of curl. Oh, and I hit it 2 rings great to the right. That was a crappy shot. I'm going to end up in the sand. I still like that though. That's the shot that that is the shot that I'm going to be taking, and that's the ball that I'm going to be using in the rest of the tournament. Because I don't want to have to use the overpower. I screwed that up big time and shot that great to the right, but that shot is pretty easy when you don't have to do overpower. What's funny is that I don't bring out 5 power balls very often. If you've watched my videos for a long time, I've played in I hardly ever bring out anything other than what we can buy in the store. That's why I have some of those balls that are in my pack that they sold a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I still have balls from them because I don't use those special balls very often. But the last 2 tournaments, there's been some holes like this that if you brought out a 5 power ball, you could standardize the shot and not have to do any overpower, and that makes a huge difference. I want to get out from underneath those trees. Side spin, little teeny bit of top spin. Let's see how close I can get before that tree comes into play. Right about in there. It's bleeding forward just a little. From this distance right here, it's about 4 per ring, so I'm going to do a 1 ring pull. I'm going to have to put on a little teeny bit of curl just to bring it back to the cup. And it great to the left. Had a pretty good track on it if I hadn't hit that great to the left. And I was pushing the limits right there. Normally what I would tell you to do on that shot right there is to forego trying to get the eagle. If you've got a really good shot at it where you could take those trees completely out of play and you didn't have to worry about the trees, then you can go for it. But I was kind of pushing the limits right there because if I'd hit it great to the right, there is a shot that I would have caught the tree limb, and then I would have put myself in even a bigger spot of bother. The whole goal is to put yourself in the perfect position, and if you're not in that spot, oh, I might have missed that. If you're not in that spot, then you go for you needed a birdie on this hole. So if you didn't achieve what you wanted to on the drive, then you go up there and get your birdie and move on to the next hole. Next time you come to this hole, you try and set yourself up better so you're in the best spot, get your eagle, and move on. If you don't, play it safe, get your birdie, Go to the next hole. Don't sacrifice. Don't take risks with the minimum score. The minimum score in this tournament's minus 13. You have to achieve minus 13 as the minimum that you're shooting. So you're trying to put yourself in the right position on every hole to pick up a spot, and you don't want to have an epic fail on a drive and then risk that minus 13. You want to be able to pick up a shot and then hang on to it, because the minus 13 should be guaranteed. If you're playing this game and you're not achieving the minus 13, then don't worry about trying to pick up those extra shots. Those extra shots, if you keep putting yourself in the right spot, you'll pick those up. Focus on the holes that you're not shooting what you should be shooting. If it's one of those par 5s and it's like you're not getting the eagle, then that's the hole you really need to focus on, because you've got to achieve that minus 13 as an absolute minimum. And what you don't want is for that minus 13 to be a minus 13 because you picked up an eagle on one of those par 4s, you picked up an Albie on one of those par 5s, but then you drop something. You should never drop shots. The minus 13 is the minimum you're going to shoot, and then everything that you pick up you have to hold on to. If you want to get into the top of these brackets, that's the way you have to look at it. That's what always cracks me up when you go to Facebook and those places and people are bitching about the person at the top of my bracket shot a 30. Well, guess what, buddy? A 30 is what you were supposed to shoot in that tournament if you wanted to win. What they shot is not what's important. What did you shoot? Those people never post what they shot. Did you even shoot the minimum score of like this tournament, minus 13? Did you shoot that score? What did you shoot? If you didn't shoot that score, you had no shot of winning anyway. So don't worry about what the people at the top of the bracket are doing. All right, that was hole number 2 of the Monster Marsh tournament. Thanks for watching.